Okay, so like we all know we're kind of drowning in data. Right?
Yeah.
But the cool part is we can use that data, like all those tiny details, to find out some pretty amazing stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, every single clip, every little reading from a sensor, every time someone buys something.
It's all valuable information, yeah.
It is. But the question is, how do we actually make sense of it all, especially when we're talking about like billions of unique data points?
Well, that's where this idea of high cardinality metrics comes into play.
Oh yeah, high cardinality.
It's basically about tracking data at a super granular level.
Okay, so super granular.
Right.
Like think about each individual user going through a website.
Right, right.
Or the status of every single container in like a giant shipping network.
Oh, wow.
Or even, the performance of every single product, like down to the SKU.
So instead of just seeing, like, the forest, we're looking at every single leaf on every tree.
Yeah, exactly. Our source today, an article by Tomer Ben David called Decoding Operational Complexity, Harnessing ClickHouse and Grafana for High Cardinality Metrics.
Mm-hmm.
It really goes deep into this.
Yeah, and it really highlights the challenge.
Okay, the challenge.
High cardinality, it can be a real pain to deal with.
Oh, I bet.
Because, like, traditional databases, they weren't really built for this level of detail.
They weren't ready for this, huh?
Nope. It's kind of like, searching for a needle in a haystack.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have the right tools.
Oof. Yeah, that does not sound fun. So then where do ClickHouse and Grafana come in?
Well, ClickHouse, it's a database that was designed specifically for this kind of analysis.
Okay.
Really high performance, working with these massive data sets, especially ones with high cardinality.
Gotcha.
And one of its secrets is something called columnar storage.
Columnar storage. Interesting.
So instead of storing data, like row by row, like a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It organizes everything by columns.
Oh, so it's like instead of having to go through like a whole jumble pantry to find all your ingredients,
Right.
You have them all prepped and ready in like separate containers.
That's a great analogy. That's exactly what columnar storage does. It means ClickHouse can analyze these huge data sets super fast.
Oh, wow.
So you get your answers faster. And then on top of that,
There's more.
oh yeah, it uses something called vectorized query execution.
Okay, vectorized query execution.
Which basically processes tons of data at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Like an assembly line, but super efficient.
An information assembly line. I like that. So ClickHouse helps us like find those needles in the haystack.
Uh-huh.
But we still need a way to actually see what's going on, right?
Right.
And make sense of it all visually.
Yeah.
That's where Grafana comes in.
Exactly. Grafana is perfect for visualizing complex data, and it works really well with ClickHouse.
Okay.
And what makes it so powerful for high cardinality
Yeah.
is the ability to create like these dynamic dashboards.
Ooh, dynamic dashboards. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, so instead of having to build a separate dashboard for every user, every product,
Yeah.
you can actually just use filters to drill down into the specific things you want to look at.
So it's like one dashboard that like morphs into whatever I need.
Exactly. You don't get overwhelmed by a million charts.
Oh, that's nice. So it's not just about pretty pictures then.
Right.
Grafana actually lets you explore your data, like play around with it.
Yeah, interactively.
You can ask like whatever questions you have.
Yeah.
And maybe even find some ancient trends you didn't even think about.
Right. And you can even set up alerts.
Oh, alerts.
So it'll notify you if something critical is going on.
Oh, that's crucial, especially with so much data flying around.
Yeah, it's important. But even with great tools like ClickHouse and Grafana, the article, it really stresses that you need smart strategies too.
Ah, okay, strategies.
To manage high cardinality the right way.
So tools aren't enough. We got to be smart about it too.
Exactly. And one of the most important strategies is data aggregation.
Data aggregation, okay.
Instead of storing every single click or every single data point, you can kind of like summarize it all at different intervals.
Oh, okay.
This reduces how much data you need to store and analyze.
Makes it a little more manageable.
Yeah, without losing the ability to see the big trends.
Oh, I see. So instead of like trying to memorize every single street corner,
Right.
we can just look at a map.
Exactly.
Get the big picture.
Yeah, and to make this even more efficient, ClickHouse, it has something called materialized views.
Materialized views.
Yeah, think of it as like pre-calculating the answers to the questions you ask the most.
Oh? So we don't have to do the math every single time?
Right, like having a cheat sheet ready to go.
Oh, I like that. So not only are we finding those needles faster,
Yeah.
we're like organizing the whole haystack.
Exactly.
Making it a little less messy.
Another technique is dimensionality reduction.
Dimensionality reduction, okay.
So, like, do you really need to keep track of every single URL on your website?
Probably not, right?
Maybe you can group them into bigger categories like product pages or blog posts.
Oh, okay.
It's about focusing on what's really important to your goals.
So what we actually need to know, not just every little thing.
Right. The article also talks about schema optimization,
Schema optimization.
which is like when you're designing your ClickHouse database,
Right, right.
choosing the right data types can really affect how well things perform.
Oh, okay, so data types matter.
Big time. For example, ClickHouse, it has a special data type called low cardinality,
Low cardinality.
which is for like strings that only have a limited number of unique values.
Okay.
This can save a ton of storage space and make queries much faster.
So it's like choosing the right size box, right?
Yeah.
Like if you try to cram a huge item into a tiny box,
That's going to be a pain later.
it's not going to work. All right, so we have these awesome tools
Yeah,
and some pretty smart strategies.
right.
But let's talk about, the cost of all this.
Yeah, cost is important.
ClickHouse and Grafana, they're both open source.
Mm-hmm.
So they're free to use, right?
That's right, they are free.
But there's a but.
There's always a but. As the article points out, free doesn't really mean no cost.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting.
Because you still have the costs of running these tools.
Oh, right, of course.
Like the servers, the cloud instances, all that stuff.
The infrastructure behind it all.
Yeah, and you got to factor in the cost of maintaining everything, keeping it running smoothly.
Which probably takes some serious expertise.
It does. So it's kind of like building a house. You might get the materials for free, the open source part.
Right, right.
But you still got to pay for the labor and tools.
Yeah, the infrastructure, the people who know how to put it all together. Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, like building a house. And that's actually why the article also talks about these managed cloud solutions.
Oh, okay, managed cloud solutions. So instead of us building the house ourselves,
Yeah.
we're basically hiring like a contractor to handle it all.
Pretty much, yeah. With a managed service, you pay someone else to take care of all that infrastructure stuff, the maintenance, even things like security and backups.
Oh, wow. So it's like hands off for us.
Yeah, it can be a lot simpler, especially if you don't have like a whole team of experts in-house.
Right, right. But I'm guessing that comes with its own costs, right?
Of course, managed services, they offer simplicity, scalability.
Yeah.
But they can get pricey, especially if you're working with a really big setup. It really just depends on what you need, your budget, your technical resources, all that.
It's like choosing between cooking at home or going out to eat, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Sometimes you want that control and you want to save some money, so you do it yourself. But sometimes it's just easier and you're willing to pay a little extra to have someone else do it. Someone who really knows what they're doing.
Exactly. And just like cooking, you got to pick what works best for you.
So whether we go the DIY route or hire a pro, the article really emphasizes this idea of having a strategy when you're monitoring all these high cardinality metrics.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about gathering all the data. It's about getting the right data
Oh, okay.
and actually using it in a smart way.
Can you give us like an example? Like how would that actually work?
Sure. Let's say you're running like an online store and you want to track how each product is doing.
Okay, yeah.
You could technically track every single view, every time it's added to a cart, every purchase.
Whoa, that sounds like a lot of data, even for ClickHouse.
It would be way too much, and you probably don't need all of that anyway.
Right.
Instead, you could just look at like daily or hourly summaries for each product.
Ah, okay.
You still get the big picture of how things are going
Yeah.
without drowning in a sea of details.
So it's like reading the Cliff's Notes instead of the whole book.
Yeah, exactly. You still get the main points,
Okay.
and that's where those materialized views in ClickHouse are so useful.
Oh yeah, the materialized views are cheat sheet.
Exactly. They're like having a personal chef who preps all your meals ahead of time.
Nice. So we're finding the needles faster, organizing the haystack, and now we've got a personal chef. We're living the dream.
Right. And we also got to be careful about what we're actually tracking. Not all data is equally important.
Okay, so some data is more valuable than others.
Yeah, some of it might be crucial, but some of it's just noise. It just makes things more complicated.
It's like cleaning out your closet. Get rid of the stuff you don't wear anymore.
Exactly. You want to keep what you actually need and what helps you reach your goals. Like, instead of tracking every single URL on your website,
Yeah.
you could just focus on, like, product categories or departments.
Okay, broader strokes.
Right. You still see how different parts of your website are performing
Yeah.
without getting lost in the weeds. And then with Grafana's dynamic dashboards, you can easily zero in on those categories whenever you need to.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah. Enough detail to give you the insights you need, but not so much that you get overwhelmed.
The article also mentioned data retention policies, like how long you actually keep all this data. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, with so much data coming in all the time, you can easily end up spending a fortune on storage.
Oh yeah, storage can get expensive.
You really got to think about how long you actually need to keep this stuff. Do you need logs of every single user interaction from 5 years ago?
I can barely remember what I did yesterday. Probably not.
Exactly. That's where data retention policies come in. You can set up rules to automatically delete or archive older data that you don't need anymore.
Oh, okay, so it's like cleaning out the fridge. Don't want to keep everything forever.
Exactly. Just the stuff that's still good. So we're not just organizing the haystack, we're doing some digital cleaning too.
Keeping things tidy. So it sounds like high cardinality monitoring. It's not just about flipping a switch. It takes some real planning.
It does. You got to think about your infrastructure, how long you keep the data, your whole monitoring strategy. Do you need alerts for every single metric right away? Or can you check on some things less often?
So many things to consider.
And the answers are going to be different for everyone, right?
Right, depends on what each organization is doing.
Exactly. But that's what's so great about ClickHouse and Grafana. They give you that flexibility. You can tailor your monitoring to exactly what you need.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't matter if you're a small startup or a huge company.
Right. You can still use these tools to get those really detailed insights without breaking the bank.
So we can find that balance, get the insights we need without getting buried in data.
Exactly. And that's why this article is so helpful. It lays out a plan for dealing with all the complexities of high cardinality metrics.
Yeah, helps us make smart decisions about how to monitor our systems.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Yeah, what's the big picture here?
I think the main thing is you don't have to be intimidated by high cardinality data.
It sounds kind of scary at first.
It can be, but with the right tools and the right approach,
Yeah.
you can turn that data into something really valuable.
Oh, okay, so we can use it to make better decisions.
Absolutely. Improve your products, optimize how you do things. There's so much potential.
And this deep dive has really helped us understand all of that.
It has. High cardinality isn't good or bad. It's just a feature of your data.
Okay.
And if you use it the right way, you can actually use it to your advantage.
So for those listening who are ready to take their data analysis to the next level,
You definitely got to check out the full article. We'll have a link in the show notes.
and if you want to learn more about ClickHouse and Grafana,
There are a ton of resources online. We'll link to some good ones too.
perfect. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into high cardinality metrics. But before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. Okay, we've been talking about these like big complex systems,
Yeah.
but high cardinality data, it's not just for like big tech companies or whatever.
Right. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. What's like one area in your own work or even your life where tracking these tiny details could like reveal something interesting?
That's a good question.
It really makes you think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like tracking your daily habits so you can figure out how to be more productive.
Uh-huh.
Or, I don't know, maybe monitoring every single piece of equipment in a factory
Oh, yeah.
so you can like predict when it needs maintenance.
I think the really cool stuff is in areas that we don't usually think of as data-driven.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, imagine tracking the growth of every plant in a garden.
Oh, wow.
Or analyzing how customers behave in a store.
To see what they're actually buying and how they're shopping?
Exactly.
It's like having a microscope for everyday life.
It is. And the best part is, with tools like ClickHouse and Grafana becoming more and more accessible,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a data scientist to use them.
Anyone can do this stuff.
Yeah, it's not just for the experts anymore.
So try it out, see what you can find.
Get curious, experiment a little.
You might uncover something amazing.
Yeah, or at least you'll, start to appreciate the power of data.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of high cardinality metrics. Hopefully you learned something new.
Yeah, I hope so.
And maybe you're even feeling inspired to explore this a little more on your own.
Definitely check out the show notes for links to the article and all the resources we talked about.
And until next time, keep on diving deep.